Welcome, 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 Mosaic Souls. Hello, 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 Mosaic Souls. Hey, Mosaic Souls, this is Rachael Alexander, artist and Mosaic Soul mentor, aka spiritual life, wellness, and business coach here at Divine Earth School. And today I'm super excited to be talking about breaking the people-pleasing cycle once and for all. So how do we start ending the people-pleasing cycle? This is for my people-pleasers out there, my empaths out there, my folks out there who have a tendency to put other people's needs before their own. This video is for you. So welcome back to Divine Earth School. So today we're going to be diving deep into a topic that I know will resonate with many of you. So ending the relentless cycle of people-pleasing. So if you find yourself consistently prioritizing others' needs over your own, stay tuned because we're going to really start to uncover the keys to breaking free. Now, if you're joining me live, feel free to say hi in the chat. Today is the last day of my Journey Within series. This month of November, it's been fun. It's been exciting. Let me make sure that I'm even being seen and heard. Let me know if you can hear me. All right, make sure. Sometimes just always got to make sure all is well. Let's see. Right, I see one. Okay. Okay, cool. So you can see and hear me. Feel free to say hi in the chat. Okay, cool. So let's get started. So I want to share a little story that might hit close to home. Picture this. So you're constantly saying yes to others, meeting everyone else's expectations, but where does that leave you? Does it leave you feeling depleted, perhaps a touch of resentment, or a nagging loss of your own identity? If that sounds familiar, then this video is for you. Before we dive in, let me just go ahead and do some house cleaning real quick. Today is the last day of my Black Friday sale. So for those of you who are looking to receive more support in creating the life and business that you desire, feel free to visit this link. I'll drop it in the chat. The sale ends tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we have 60% off of all our courses and products and services. So check that out. And then also for those of you who want extra support in a larger way, feel free, let me make sure that's right. Feel free to visit me at www.divineearthschool.com/call to book a complimentary discovery call. So now that that's out of the way, just want to take care of that and make sure I announce that for those of you who want to take advantage of those deals. Cool. So let's dive into this content. I'm going to open it up for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and I'll look at them towards the end. Okay, so let's dive into this content. So the people-pleasing misconception. So one of the most common misconceptions is the belief that putting others' needs first is the key to happiness, right? So, but the thing is, it's really a slippery slope. So while kindness and generosity are beautiful qualities, constantly neglecting your own well-being can really lead you to a sense of feeling burnt out and a sense of emptiness, right? And so let's dig into the root of people-pleasing, right? Let's dig into why this happens. So people-pleasing often stems from a deep desire for approval from others or fear of rejection from others. It can also be something that has been taught to you from, well, usually it stems from, especially if you've been a people-pleaser growing up, it can stem from childhood sort of, I don't want to call it trauma, but just sort of childhood patterns where you learn to sort of please a certain parent or sibling or elder or something like that in that sense, because you feel that if you don't please them, then you'll be rejected or you won't be loved or you won't be taken care of, or there's a lot of fear that kind of is sort of the root of that, right? And it can happen not only in our childhood, it can also happen in our adulthood as well. So we're wired to seek connection. That's natural human evolution. But when it becomes a constant sacrifice of your own needs, it's really time to reassess. So the root of people pleasing really comes from, a lot of not always broke. It doesn't always have to be broken, where it's like this broken relationships, but a lot of times, oftentimes it is. And it could be just subtle. It doesn't necessarily mean that you came from an abusive household and stuff like that, but it could just be like a break in communication where maybe, a certain family member or parent or sibling always expected you to pick up their slack or take on their emotions or, to be accountable for something that you technically weren't supposed to, or it could happen in adulthood. And so we might get trapped in these modes of reality where we think that other people's life issues are your own. And it's also very much so a cultural thing too. I noticed that, in Caribbean culture and Latin American culture and certain Eastern cultures, it's very much so this sort of codependent, entangled mess, which is totally fine. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be interdependent with each other, but there's like this sort of almost unhealthiness to it, to where there's this belief that other people's issues should be your own, rather than everyone taking sort of 100% responsibility for their own stuff, and then us supporting each other in that, there's more, that's more co-interdependence versus this codependence where we're enabling others to not take responsibility for their lives. So that's really the root of people pleasing. So let's talk about the consequences. So putting others first may seem noble, but the consequences can really be profound. So some of them are depletion, resentment, having a loss of personal identity. Those are just sort of the tip of the iceberg, that sense of sort of, built up, pent up frustration. It's like pouring from an empty cup, which you've heard me talk about a lot before. And sooner or later, the impact of your mental health and emotional well-being really becomes undeniable. So drop a like on this video if you're resonating with this message. And let's dive into some practical steps to breaking free. Let's get to this good stuff, how to break free from people pleasing, right? So number one, as you hear me talk about a lot on this channel, is step one is you don't have to, I invite you to self-reflect, right? Take a moment to reflect on your own needs, desires, and boundaries, and start to really discover what truly matters to you. Also, in this self-reflection, ask yourself, why am I? Why do I feel the need to people please? What do I gain out of it? What do I feel that I will lose, right? If I don't continue to people please, right? In whatever way that is showing up, and also in what ways, another way that you can ask yourself some of these questions is, what ways will others benefit by me starting to put my own needs first, by me putting my own mask first, by me filling my own cup first? And what ways can others benefit? And a lot of times it's kind of indirect, but a lot of times what it's doing is it calls people to kind of step forward and step more powerfully in their own divinity, step more powerfully into their own sense of responsibility for their own lives. And so the people pleasing cycle can start to end once you start to do some of this self-reflection work. So step one is self-reflection, right? Step number two is learning to say no. So practicing saying no without guilt. It's not no from a place of resentment, no from a place of fear, but no from a place of, this is a yes for me, so it's technically going to be a yes for you. Even if you're saying no, I'm saying yes to what is right for me. And so inadvertently, even though it might seem like it might be harming them, it always is going to be a yes for the other person, because they will then find alignment with something else. Someone else will come to feel that need, And I'll give an example. The other day, what's up, Mark Moses? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hatat. Yes. What's up, DS family? So one of the things I wanted to share, one of my friends was wanting me to work on some business stuff with him, and I just wasn't feeling in alignment. And I always listen to my heart. I always listen to my soul, my intuition. And so in that instance, it was a no to him in that moment, right? But it was a yes for me. So ultimately it became a yes for him too, right? Because what ended up happening, he was telling me like a week or two later, after I was like, I had turned him down for whatever collaboration that he was trying to ensue, he ended up finding someone else who was way more suitable and way more excited about what he was passionate about creating, and they ended up having a beautiful collaboration. You know what I mean? But if I had said yes for me, I would have been denying my own inner yes. And working on the things that I was passionate about. And it would have been sort of a ho-hum, lackluster interaction between us because I wasn't really being true to myself. So you can learn to say no. And one of the things you got to learn is to let go of the guilt and the shame about it, because we live in an abundant universe. So a no to someone else is always a yes to you and them inadvertently, right? Because they will always find synchronicity and alignment where it's necessary, right? So your boundaries are valid, and it's okay to prioritize your well-being as well, you know? So a lot of times, you know, us as I'm an ex people pleaser. I don't consider myself to be a people pleaser anymore, but when I was down that slope, you know, learning to say no, I would feel guilt and shame and stuff around that. And that's okay to prioritize your well-being, because when you say no to someone, not only are you standing into your own power and you're standing into your yes-ness, right? You're standing into your own divinity. You're inadvertently giving someone else the permission to do the same for their own life, right? And so that's really a powerful step, right? So step number 1, self-reflection. Step number 2, learning to say no from a place of power versus from a place of guilt, shame, or fear, or, you know, all those other places, right? And step number 3 is reclaiming your identity, right? So rediscover the things that make you uniquely you. What brings you joy? What are your passions? And the reason why this step is important is because when you've been in this sort of cycle of people pleasing, you've probably been conditioned to believe that your dreams, your heart's desires, your joys, your passions are less than other people's, right? They're less important. And maybe it might not be a conscious thought, but if you start to analyze your own behavior, you'll start to see that, oh, I have a tendency to, you know, let's say, for example, you were in a relationship and you have a tendency to, you know, hang out with your partner when really you really want some me time, and you're too afraid to say, babe, I really need to take some me time. Can I have an hour or two, you know, every day from 6 to 7, and then we'll convene around 8. But because you've been constantly taught that, you know, you need to give of yourself, otherwise the relationship won't flourish, you believe that taking time for yourself is a selfish thing. And so even though you need that time, let's say you're an introvert or something like that, and you don't even need to be an introvert for this, but you need that time to sort of self-reflect and be in your own energy. What happens is you putting yourself out there, or you giving of yourself in that way, is you're giving out of an empty cup. And then after that, you kind of start feeling resentment. Like, let's say you spent some time with your partner, and at the end of the night, you're feeling resentment because you really wanted to take that time to just journal or read a book or just kind of meditate, but you didn't really do that because you felt like you had to show up for your partner, or you had to show up for your kids in that moment, or whatever. I'm just giving you an example, right? So reclaiming your identity, this step is all about rediscovering the things that make you uniquely you, and giving yourself time to rediscover what brings you to life. What are your passions? What brings you joy? And starting to sprinkle your day with those moments even more and more and more, and saying yes more to yourself, saying yes more to your heart's desires, saying yes more to the things that light you up. Not in the fact that you're trying to, and I know I might sound like a very much so individualist on this channel. I'm really not. I really believe in community. I really believe in beautiful, loving, healthy relationships. But they always start with the self, right? If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it's really, really hard to have good, healthy relationships with other people, because you're not going to know how to communicate with other people, because the way that you communicate with yourself is that you're denying yourself. So inadvertently, you're going to be denying other people as well, right? So it's like how you treat yourself is how it's that mirror effect, right? So that's step number 3, is really reclaiming your identity and starting to, you know, sprinkle in your life more things that bring you joy, right? Prioritizing yourself. And then 4th step is setting boundaries, establishing clear boundaries with others, right? So healthy relationships respect and honor individual boundaries. And this was a huge one for me to learn, right? Because coming up from, you know, sort of codependent like upbringing, I didn't really know that, you know, what healthy relationships reflect. And a lot of times we think we're shown these sort of demented versions of what relationships are in all types of movies and films and stuff like that. And so you see these sort of toxic, you know, that word is overused, but you see these sort of like imbalanced is the better word, imbalanced relationships, right? Where there's, you know, one person being sort of the narcissist and one person being the empath, or one person taking advantage of another while the other person is slaving away, like this sort of imbalance, right? The Cinderella story, right? You see that happening a lot. Or you'll see where you have these sort of relationships, right? My mom, what I'm thinking of, my mom loves the Girlfriends series or whatever. She started watching it on Netflix or whatever. And it's sort of like these relationships where everybody's intermingled and everybody knows everyone's business and everybody's, chiming in on what that person should do, and no one's tuning into themselves, no one's tuning into their own intuition, no one's checking in with their higher self and their soul on what should be done. It's this sort of like boundaryless existence of codependency, that's kind of going on, that happens in all types of family dynamics, all types of relationship dynamics. And so healthy relationships really respect and honor individual boundaries, right? Knowing what is okay for you and what is okay for another. Like one of my really good friends, I'm thinking of examples in my life. One of my really good friends who I consider to have a healthy relationship, when I'm tired and I don't feel like talking to them, and it could be like weeks on end that we don't talk to each other. When I don't feel like talking to them, like, hey, I don't really feel like talking, like, oh, that's totally fine. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. I'll talk to you when it's synchronicity. That's the type of response that you get from a healthy relationship versus another type of relationship that I consider to be an imbalanced relationship that I had to release from my past, where I would say that type of stuff and they would then pressure me like, why can't we just hang out? I haven't talked to you forever. And there's this sort of like pressure to like, for me to do what they want because I have to meet their needs. Like I have to drop everything that I need to do for me in order to meet their needs. That's unhealthy. You know what I mean? So when people can't like respect your boundaries and honor individual boundaries, that's an unhealthy version of a relationship, right? So learning to set healthy boundaries, establish clear boundaries, and not saying that you have to cut ties with everyone who does that, but just teaching people that it's okay to have healthy boundaries. It's okay to take time for yourself. It's okay to say yes. It's okay to say no. It's okay to do the things that honor who you are as a divine soul having this human experience, right? And that's perfectly healthy and normal, right? And when there's synchronicity that aligns, then coming together or interacting or working on things together or creating things or having experience together is a beautiful thing, right? When there's synchronicity, when there's alignment. But when there's sort of a mismatch, being able to communicate effectively what you need in that moment is also a part of healthy boundaries, like in relationships, right? Another aspect of this could be where you're like, let's say you just came home from a long day's work and you do have a partner and stuff like that, and you just are not at like your partner really wants to offload their day, but you just went through it, your boss was yelling at you or something and you're just like not feeling it, right? And one of the things that a lot of people pleasers would do is just let your partner sort of offload their day onto them, and they won't say anything, and they'll just be even more depleted, even more like, but one of the things that you can do as a person stepping more into your yes you, the person of you that's no longer going to be a doormat for others, is like, hey babe, I really hear you right now and I really want to be there for you, but right now my energy level, my like capacity to hold space for you right now is at like a 10%, and I really need to get to like a 70% or above to even hold or listen to anything that you have to say right now. So if you can just give me some time to recharge, then we can come back, you know what I mean? And then if you're in a healthy relationship, your partner will be like, oh yeah, no problem baby, what can I do for you? Do you need me to run you a bath, or you want a massage, or do you want me to just give you some alone time, right? That's a healthy exchange, right? I had to learn that. But not all people are healthy, so you have to just sort of pick your battles and see where people are and just learn how to set those healthy boundaries, because they're very important for sanity. It's very important for loving, healthy, thriving, flourishing relationships, right? In general, no matter what kind of relationship. And this is not just partner relationships. This is also like in the workspace and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Learning to set healthy boundaries with your coworkers, your boss, whatever, parents, all the above, right? So step number 4 is setting healthy boundaries. And then step number 5 is self-love practices, right? So cultivating self-love through daily practices, whether it's meditating, journaling, or simply taking time for yourself and prioritizing self-care. And self-care could just be, self-havening and, doing some yoga, or just simply sitting by your window and looking outside the window and looking at the trees. That's self-love. So like whatever you can do to nurture feeling whole within yourself is self-love, right? Self-love is really helping you to tune back into your true soul self, so you don't feel disengaged. Well, you don't feel fragmented is the word. You don't feel fragmented and disjointed and just kind of not, in tune with yourself, right? So that's what really self-love is. So those are really the 5 practical steps. Let me do a recap. If you're resonating, feel free to let me know in the chat below. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat below as well as I go over these steps. So recap, step number 1 is self-reflection. Step number 2 is learning to say no from a place of power or from a place of truth, right? Step number 3 is reclaiming your identity, rediscovering the things that bring you joy, that light you up, that are your passion. Step number 4 is setting healthy boundaries, right? And then step number 5 is self-love practices and getting back to the wholeness of who you truly are and feeling whole in yourself, right? Whatever practices help you to align with your true self. So those are the 5 steps that I wanted to share. So breaking free from the people-pleasing, cycle is really a journey of self-discovery and empowerment, and it takes time. So give yourself grace, right? Give yourself compassion. Not everything's going to be perfect. These are, especially if you've been a people pleaser for all your life, it's going to take time to uncondition that habit within yourself. So it's really about reclaiming your authenticity and creating a life that really aligns with your true soul self, right? Remembering that your needs matter, your voice matters, right? You deserve a life that reflects your unique essence, and to be surrounded by people who honor that and love you for that, right? And also have that in their own life, in their own sort of blueprint as well, So that is what I wanted to share today. If you resonated with today's message and are ready to embark on the journey of ending people-pleasing cycle, then definitely visit us at www.divinerschool.com/call for those of you who are looking to receive more help in creating the life you love. So on that call, we'll get to the root of what's really holding you back, your limiting beliefs, and then we'll sort of map out a plan, right, to help you uncover who you truly are, such that you can create and become self-actualized in this lifetime while you're here on the planet. And if part of those steps might be that you want to work with me, and if that is great, and if not, that's also great, but at least it'll be a really great call to help you gain clarity on where you are and where you want to be and how to get there, right? So that is that. Check out the link in the descriptions box below, and also check out the first link that I shared for our Black Friday sale, which ends tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if y'all have no questions, I don't see any questions in the chat, I will hop off. I'll give you guys a second to type any questions that you have. I see what are the steps to finding, claiming your identity? Step number 3. Okay, yeah, let me recap that. So step number 3 was reclaiming. So in reclaiming your identity, I talked about rediscovering the things that make you uniquely you. What are your values? What are the things that light you up? What are the things that bring you joy, right? What are your passions, right? Discovering who you are outside of the old identity of, if I was the people pleaser, Rachael, the people pleaser, Rachael, the person who always has to show up and do everything for everybody else and neglect her own needs. No. What are the things that lights up Rachael? What are the things, whatever, fill in the name, Ms. Key. And, what are your things that bring you joy? And the reason why that's important is because usually as a people pleaser, we've been so conditioned to disregard our own needs, disregard our passions, and disregard who we truly are, such that we can sort of mold ourselves in sort of the person who we've been people pleasing's light, right? And so we sort of shun ourselves, not shun, but that's sort of a harsh word. We sort of disregard our own needs. And so reclaiming your identity is about tapping back into your needs and putting back your needs online, right? And so prioritizing those first and really tapping back into what brings you joy and starting to sprinkle what brings you joy throughout your day-to-day life, right? So that's step number 3. Hello. I see some folks in the chat. Feel free to say hi in the chat if you got any more questions. I'm here. hopefully that clarified step number 3. If you have any more questions, yeah, you're welcome. You're most welcome. And welcome. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome to Divine Earth School. Good to have you here. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to hop off and go grab some dinner. Hey. So, yeah, I just wanted to say today is the last day I'm going to be doing the Journey Within series. The month of November, I wanted to dedicate it to, rediscovering who we truly are at soul level and tapping back into that and really starting to embody that more and more in our day-to-day lives. So for those of you who are new to this channel, for those of you who are just joining me, feel free to go back through my lives and all of the month of November. It's really some juicy content that I dropped, and there's some really valuable steps and tips that I shared, and a lot of the content that I shared in the month of November and a lot of my lives. So definitely check those videos out. So yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna link it below, but I did way too many videos to link them all below. Just go back through the month of November and you'll see a whole bunch of lives that I did all around relating to the topic of the journey within, embracing your true soul self, right? So that's what I shared. Okay, cool. So I see no more questions. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And as always, flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because you are divine. You are a divine being, and your soul knows exactly what you've come to explore and experience while on this planet. So remember, what you conceive is what you'll receive. What you expect is what you'll get. And however you feel is what will become real before you. So vibrate higher, and I will chat with you guys next time. Peace, love, and light.